Early designs for Avatar's Nausicaa all had the same problem for James Cameron. James Cameron's Avatar spawned one of cinema's biggest franchises, but getting there was no easy task. Cameron sacrificed the chance to make other movies to make Avatar, and he's dedicated himself to the cause. It all started with creating the Nausicaa, which, in itself, was a complicated feat. Getting them right, in the early stages, proved challenging for a variety of reasons. In the book, The Making of Avatar, Avatar, The Way of Water, Avatar, Fire and Ash, it's explained that Camereon and his team of artists began with the filmmaker's original vision for the Na'vi of Pandora, which he first described in a 1995 treatment. That description reads as follows. Its skin is blue, 2 shades of blue in a banded pattern. The waist is narrow and elongated, the shoulders very wide, giving a V-shaped upper back. The hands are graceful, with 3 very long fingers and 1 opposed thumb. The faces are exquisite, large wise eyes, maybe twice the size of ours, like those of a cat or a lemur. The teeth are white, with pronounced canines. They have a tail, like the tail of a panther, a complex pattern of iridescence and lines, perfectly symmetrical, runs over the body. These glow in the dark like fireflies. There's what looks like a black ponytail, or queue, hanging down almost to the waist. This is not hair, but actually an external part of the nervous system. That description matches the Nausicaa in the movie as we know it. The problem? There was still too much room for artistic interpretation. There was some room for improv with the Nausicaa language, but the designs had to be just right. Unfortunately, the early concepts were all far too alien. James Cameron needed the Nausicaa to have human qualities. Everybody was coming back with insectal, amphibious, or fish-like Nausicaa designs, James Cameron explained. It was difficult to relate to those. I decided to play more with proportion, scale, color, and pigmentation. We played with structures of tails and ears. But I didn't want to lose contact with the emotional effect of the actors. Cameron didn't aim for photorealism with the Nausicaa, but they couldn't feel too alien. Na'vi, played by Zoe Saldana, was used early on. That was before the artists knew who would play her. The book explains that Cameron ultimately guided the artists back toward the original concept, focusing on designs that wouldn't interfere with the actors' expressions or emotions. Also, Na'vi needed to be attractive and not a fish girl. Stan Winston Studio, which worked with Cameron dating back to his breakthrough hit The Terminator, collaborated in character creation and produced studies of Na'vi physiognomy, defining their feline qualities, physique, and empathetic features. Stan Winston Studios did some of the first really good Nausicaa adaptations using photography of real people, said production designer Dylan Cole. Joe Pepe was one of the main artists over there, who came to work with us at Lightstorm on The Way of Water. With every Nausicaa, a lot of the character has to do with casting. Our basic Nausicaa formula is to use the performer's mouth and chin almost as is. And then, we widen the Nausicaa's eyes and do the leonine nose. Lightstorm's lead character designer Joseph C. Pepe said that Cameron had hit a wall and needed a fresh perspective, specifically some realism. Fortunately, my methodology involved compositing and collaging photographs rather than drawing with a pencil or painting in a purely digital medium, Pepe revealed. A cat helped inspire the Nausicaa in Avatar. Designing the Nausicaa was just one small part of bringing Avatar to life. It was all hugely expensive. Even though James Cameron had made giant hits like Titanic and Aliens, Hollywood believed that Avatar was going to flop when it arrived in 2009. Spoilers: it didn't flop. Joseph C. Pepe's initial concept placed skin imperfections on a Nausicaa elder. I randomly selected a high-resolution photo of an elderly female from Stan's archive of sculpting reference, Pepe said. I included skin pores, scars, moles, and fine wrinkles around the eyes that naturally existed in the photos. He also explored a biologically plausible blue skin tone using subtle striations of pigment, depth, translucency, and feline qualities. I had recently bought a hairless SBHYNX cat. His name was Spooky. I realized this was the perfect reference for a feline without hair. I photographed and took video of Spooky, and I was able to sample all the subsurface scattering of light shining through his ears. Those were real details, and I put them in my artwork. I'm sure Weta had their own reference, but spooky was my muse. Avatar became the biggest movie of all time, generating 2 sequels to date: Avatar, The Way of Water, and Avatar, Fire and Ash. Cameron is also the only director to ever make 4 movies that made at least $1 billion at the box office. The first 2 entries in this franchise made well north of $2 billion. All of that design work paid off.